What's happening, friends? Welcome back for another episode of Waynecast. I'm Rob Johnson, and joining me in the studio today is Chris Williams.
Yo, hello.
3 in a row.
Yep, you're still here.
Yeah, you're a real life co-host now.
I'm kidding. Well, don't jinx it, but yeah.
And then also joining us at the table. So this is a really interesting dynamic. So Chris is my cousin. Dave Winslick, software engineer extraordinaire, is also my cousin.
Yep.
You guys aren't cousins.
That's correct.
So that does happen in families. Every family. So Dave, first off, thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Super fun day so far. Just finished an awesome lunch. So go ahead and tell people just a 30 to 60 second background of yourself. And then I got a lot of things we want to dive into today as we're talking about corporate culture.
Sure. So I'm a software engineer. I've been doing that professionally since about 2007. The vast majority of that time, I was working at Amazon as a software engineer, and no longer with Amazon, but still writing code. Just a little disclaimer: my views are my own. I'm not representing my current company or my former company or anything like that.
Me and Chris too.
Yeah.
Yeah. My views are not the views of my company.
Right.
Not at all.
All right. So the topic for today is corporate culture. So everyone that's listening has had a job, or at least you want to have one, right? And the three of us collectively have all had bad experiences or just odd things that have happened in corporations or jobs or wherever it's at. And as we are entering into this kind of this great exit of people leaving the workforce, I'm noticing more and more that people are interviewing the employers far more than the employers are interviewing them, which is a really interesting concept. Because back in the day, you would go to a job interview, and I'm sure this is still the case, but you're kind of nervous, like, well, I hope they like me. But if you're a skilled professional, you're interviewing them to see if you're a good fit for them just as much as they are for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, especially with COVID, with everyone working remotely, it's really opened up job market. So like if you're in the Lansing area, Lansing, Michigan area, there are a few software development companies there, but now with everyone working remotely, it really opens up the job market. So yeah, you know, it's really great for people in the tech field, probably other fields as well. But yeah, you can go anywhere now. You're not just isolated to your geographical area.
Yeah. And that gets me to the topic of what makes a culture great. And I think to do that, I want to start with some examples of things that don't make a culture great. So Chris, I'm going to kick this over to you.
Some horror stories. Huh?
Yeah. And so my first job was, I'll ignore like my real first job was like Kmart, right? Doesn't count.
Sure.
I guarantee somewhere there's like a mid-level manager at Kmart being like, what do you mean? Well, Kmart doesn't exist anymore. Well, Kmart doesn't exist anymore, so that's good. Well, it's not good, but it's good for my purposes right now. So Chris, kind of give me a background of just some things that you've seen in corporate culture that have encouraged you to go elsewhere.
Sure. So my biggest thing, I think, is the corporate culture of the boss walking in the room and everyone turning into robots. I hated that so much that like, oh, did you hear he's coming in today? Like the boss is coming in today. Everybody on your best behavior, everybody wear your best clothes, like snap up, like you have to be perfect. And that corporate stuff, I just hated it so much. It was just ingenuine. It didn't like it. And like the guy would come in like, oh, hey, everybody. And like, he would try to be personable, but then everybody else is just kind of being the yes man and like falling in line.
Laughing at his terrible jokes.
Right. Yeah. Like, oh my God, that's so funny. Yeah. You did divorce your wife. It's so bad. Yeah. So like that, I always tried to fight against that. So like, I would just talk to them as a normal person. And you would either get the guy that's not used to it. So he would just be like, okay, whatever, this guy's weird, and, push me off. Or the guy that would be like, all right, this guy gets it. And then he'd actually be friendly. Yeah. And then usually that would either be good or bad. But yeah, like the boss walking in the room, like when we worked together, when, we'd be working in data center and, the boss would just kind of, or I guess it would be our boss's boss at that point, but he would do just random inspections of the data center, walking into the room. And we would be doing our job, or if we're caught on our phone or something
Or not.
like that.
Or
Yeah. Or not. Yeah. What do we call it? Monitoring systems. Yeah. So he would walk in and we would do the snap to attention and, wait for him to walk by and then continue our day. But it was so disgusting. I did not like any of that.
Yeah, my first job out of college was something similar, where I had to wear a tie, and everything was very, very stuffy and whatnot. And yeah, it's like there was corporate policies around like checking your email or answering your phone or anything like that. And like, we're human beings, we have lives. We, maybe it's the school calling about my kids, and I don't want to have to get called into an office and justify my actions or anything like that. Treat me like a human being.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing, is like treat people like an adult.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Like here, we have no policies on cell phones or whatever. Like I see people all the time, Snapchat, I don't care, because I trust them that they're going to do their job. And if you need to take a break to do stuff, I trust that you're going to manage your time well. Mm-hmm. And if you don't, that's going to show through your work. Right. And then we can talk about that. We can talk about some things that might help you stay focused more. But setting a policy like that does nothing but hurt people, because we don't have, it's 10:15, it's time for a break. Or when I was at the hospital, that was a big thing. Like people would use their breaks that they didn't get as excuses for being lazy. And it's like, well, it just forces this culture of now I have to justify everything that I do. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't sit well with me. So if it's time to work, people know when that time is. Right. And if it's time to take your foot off the gas, it's totally fine. Right.
Yeah. On the flip side of that, there's also places that I've worked at that are completely unprofessional. You go into a conference room and you're trying to get stuff done, and it's everyone's just cracking jokes, and then you just spend 45 minutes in there and don't accomplish anything. So you gotta find the right balance, right?
Yeah. I'm just thinking, we understand.
Yep.
It's how'd that 30-minute meeting stretch into 4 hours and we didn't do anything?
Right. Your entire work day was we need an all hands, go into the conference room, and then we just screw off all day long. And it's it's time to go home. All right, guys, let's wrap it up.
Yeah, let's run an update and go home.
Right. Good job today.
Yeah. But that's the thing, is it purposeful? Is it intentional? Did you actually think about this policy, or are you treating people like a number?
Right.
A lot of times I wonder if that's just that they don't have good accountability. It's we don't, assess our employees correctly. So we're just going to make all these draconian rules and hope that everyone follows them, and then everyone will get their work done. But in the actuality, people, you make a rule, people find a way to circumvent it. So
yeah. I've discovered through doing this for a few years now, that people here work harder than people in other places that I've worked at, because there's less rules, which is, I don't really know the why behind that, but when people are yeah, we can stay an extra couple hours to get this done, and I didn't ask them to, I think that more so speaks to the more trusting culture that, and Chris, you can probably speak to this more than I can, because I'm.
Yeah, no, for me, it's more if it's all right for me to stay an extra hour or two, because I'm not head down grinding every single minute of the day. So I take a break here or there. We take an extended lunch or something. I'm not hammering constantly at this thing all day long. So if I have to spend an extra hour where it's what am I going to do? Go home on Tuesday and watch TV and wait for my next shift? Whatever, it doesn't matter. I can stay an extra hour and a half.
Yeah, there's a difference between feeling you have to stay an extra hour because you're overloaded or anything, or wanting to stay there because you actually are invested in the work that you're doing. Yeah. And so it sounds like folks are invested when they're doing that, instead of oh man, Rob's giving us way too much work to do. Yeah.
We actually like doing it too. So it's all right, we're creating things.
Yeah. One of the follow-up questions that I ask, because usually when I hire someone, they have a 90-day period, and then somewhere between that 90 and 120 days, we meet and talk about progress. One of the things I ask people is do you enjoy what you're doing, or would you like to do something else in the company? Mm-hmm. And I get odd looks of why are we talking about this? It's because I want you to be happy. If you tried this out for 3 months, do you like it?
Do they think it's a trick question?
I think so. Like
By something else, do you mean get my box and pack?
yeah, by something else, I mean Starbucks is hiring.
Right.
Yeah.
No, but it's this idea of like, I want to have very open dialogue with the people that work for me, because if you don't like what you're doing, but you like it here, I want to know.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I really appreciated while I was at Amazon, is that Amazon's a large company. They do just about everything these days. And when you were at Amazon, you had total control over like where you went, provided that your performance was where it needed to be. You could move teams if you wanted to. Obviously, if you're moving teams every 6 months or something, it's not good for your career. But like, yeah, you it was one of the nice things about working at Amazon, is that like, oh, I'm more interested in this particular technology stack, I'm going to go there. So it's like good for the company because I'm working on stuff that I'm interested in, and it's good for me because like I'm learning about that thing that I'm passionate about.
Yeah. And it also helps with systems. So like when I hired a new position that we've never had here before. After about 3 months, I said, okay, shoot me straight. What don't you like doing? And they're like, I don't like doing this and this. Like, I can do it. I'm happy to do it, but I think we can do it better. I think we can bring in software to do that. And I'm like, yeah, I don't like doing that either. That's why you're doing it. So then it's like, okay, so now we have two people that agree that there's a better way to do this. So now we have a software solution. And now no one does that. The software does. But that's how you learn. And if I don't ask those questions, then people are just like, now I'm stacking more things on them that they don't like.
Right.
And there's always gonna be things that you don't like doing that you have to do at work. Like it's one of those unfortunate facts. But if there's actually care in asking, well, is there a better way we can do this? Or is this something we just have to suck up and eat? Those things are important to assess. And it's equally important for the employees to feel like they can be open and honest about their responses.
Sadly, that took me like a really long time to learn in my professional career. It's like, I was always like, the answer to any question, hey, can you do this? I'd be like, yes, I can do this. Yes, I can do this. And then pretty soon I have like a plate full of work that I'm not getting done. And I was like, oh, I can't tell my manager because I'm going to get fired or something like that. But in actuality, what I think a lot of managers want is that open dialogue that you just talked about. Like, if I'm overloading you with work, let me know, because, at the end of the day, the things that are on your plate, we want you to get done. And if you feel like you can't get them done, then let's have a conversation, let's prioritize it. And then, that also lets me know that, hey, maybe I could be a better manager at like sending work more evenly throughout the team.
Yeah. We had an instance when we first started, like in the first year that we were here, we had an employee who was just crushing it. We had no problem working 50, 60 hours a week, which is fine for a short period of time. But then I said, hey, look, you're going to move on and get promoted one day, and I'm going to need to hire someone to fill that spot. And I can't really be like, it's 40, but it's really 60 hours a week. Yeah. So I said, we have to level things off so that way it's a reasonable workload. And if we don't do that, then we're going to be bringing people into a culture where like you have to work 60 hours a week, and that's the expectation. And that's what I never want people to do.
Right.
Because it doesn't fit with what we want. I want people to have balance.
Yeah. One of the companies that I interviewed for recently, it was kind of interesting. I was talking with the CTO, and he was like, oh yeah, this is not a 40-hour a week job, meaning that, we have a lot of stuff and we need to get it done, and our work has a lot of purpose. So we need you fully invested. And then I went and I talked to the people on his team, that like software engineers, and they were like really laid back and chill. So there was like a huge disconnect there.
Yeah.
Also, they didn't ask me any technical questions or anything like that. So I'm like, what's going on here? Like, the CTO is like, we got all this work to do, and we're going to hire you, and you're going to get it done. And then I'm talking to the other people, and they're chill. And I'm like, it really turned me away from that company. I ended up not going with that company because, like you said, you're interviewing those companies just as much as they're interviewing you. And when there's a big disconnect, it's like red flags. Like I don't want to, in 3 months time, 4 months time, be looking for another job because I hate it here. So I'm going to find the place that is most interesting to me.
Right. So Chris, what's another culture killer, another habit that you've seen that you wish people could do without?
Let's see. There's so many. Another one, nepotism. So I know there's a company that I used to work for that has the owner of the company would just come in and just be like, this is my friend, you need to hire him right now. And I would be like, for what? Like what position? Like,
yeah.
And he would just say, it doesn't matter. Put him in. He can only work Saturdays. sometimes, and then Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays from noon to 3.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, everybody else has this like punch in, punch out, like 10-hour work shift, and you're expecting just your boy to come in here and work, 12 hours a week, leave when he wants, does what he wants, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's the owner. Okay, you're on. You start today. And then, we're taking one of our better employees, taking them off of production and putting them now on training for the next 6 weeks for this dude. And then he finds out at the end that he doesn't like it.
Yeah.
And so he's gone. And then, here comes my other friend. Or like just when the owner comes in and grabs like just a random employee and takes him out to lunch or like takes him on vacation. And then, the person that's been there for 6-7 years is looking around like, well, I know I produce more than this person. I know I'm just as good, if not better than this person. Like, then you start getting that question, like, is this person making more money than me now?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on? And it just turns everything really sour. And it just starts like this toxic relationship with everybody. Cause then now you go to vent to your other employees, like, what's the deal with this dude? And then he's going and
it starts this whole culture of backbiting and everyone's trying to cut the other person down. And it
all starts
unhealthy.
From the top.
Yeah, absolutely.
One positive way to counteract that is, baked into your culture. You can say, no job is too big or too small for you. Like, we're not going to play favorites with how we assign work or anything like that. And if you have a star person on your team and you're always giving them the most interesting projects, that's not helping the rest of your team grow, right? And so if you had an employee or someone on your team that's like, this task is beneath me, I think that you need to nip that type of attitude right away and prevent people from acting that way.
Yeah, that's huge. Because like the day that someone's like, oh, I can't take out the trash, or I can't.
Right.
It's like, no, then you don't need to work here. Like it's not. This is I've had somebody that was under my chain once tell me that. So well, we just hired in this person. That's their job now.
Right.
Yeah.
And guess how long that person lasted. And the person that came in behind them that was like, I will do whatever I need to make this work. Took that person's job.
Yeah, my wife has an interesting story about that. She, for a short period of time, was working for a startup, and the CEO took out the trash at a conference that they were holding, and my wife got chewed out because the CEO of a company shouldn't have to take out trash. I'm like, why not? Like, no employee can be everywhere at once, and if a job needs to get done, I'd much rather work for someone that's willing to jump in and do whatever needs to get done than someone that's acting like that task is beneath me.
Yeah. One of those kind of management things I learned was from Johnny, because he is the definition of I will do from the top to the bottom.
Yep.
I don't care, and I will outwork you when I do it.
Yeah.
And that's just a huge credit to him, because that was where I learned a lot of my management stuff from, is just people doing that. Like, yeah, I don't care what it is. I don't care if we have someone that just started that could do it. If I have time, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. For a short stint, I was a manager, and we had to work nights and weekends to deliver stuff. And this was during COVID. And one of the things I was telling my employees, I said, if we were in the office, I'd be running and getting you guys food and everything, because you guys are pulling in extra hours and everything like that. And, nobody likes to work extra hours for an extended period of time. But I think that I was right there with them, instead of be like, okay, see you guys on Monday. Hopefully you guys got this all straightened out.
Send me an email with an update.
Right, exactly. No, like I was there the entire time with them, helping them out. I even took off my manager hat and put back my software engineering hat, and helped out with code reviews and things like that, because we're all in this together, and if we're all trying to accomplish a single goal, everybody needs to chip in.
What do you think that how do you nourish that relationship where I don't think anybody here at our company now has a problem with cleaning the bathrooms, pulling the trashes, any of that? Did you how do you think that came about? Are we all just great people?
Yeah.
Cause I don't think nobody has a problem with when you see the trash is full, you pull it.
Right. No, I think a lot of it has to do with just the quality of the people. Okay. It's much more about
that good.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a big thing, because when I interview people, it's that 3 interviews of this is who we are and this is what we're about.
Yeah.
And anytime I see somebody that acts counter to that, I check them kindly. I'm like, is that what you should be doing? Is that how you should be talking to somebody? No one's going to bat 1,000, but that's a really important part of our onboarding is like, this is what makes us so successful. And to your point, we were talking about lunch, like if you have dead weight, if you have someone that's not going to be that person, that's going to slow your company down more than any systems or process problem that you have.
It's contagious, right? Like the longer a problem employee lasts, the more problem employees you're going to have. And so like, you almost spend more time with your bad employees than you do with your good employees. And that's to like correct the situation and hopefully, they improve and get better. Or if not, then, you got to manage them out.
Yeah. It's the same thing. Like if you have a lot of social engagement and you have one bad person on there that's writing hateful stuff about your content and 1,000 people that are complimentary, why would you even waste time in replying to the person that, because it's fun, right? But that's the whole concept is like, to your point, is like when you have a problem employee, you spend way more time with them and less time trying to retain, build, and grow the people that are crushing it on the team.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious, I went to your website. I saw that you guys have like the core values and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Is that in your like daily vocabulary? Does this stuff come up during your annual reviews? Like how much baked into your day-to-day operations are those values?
Yeah. So I'd say it's baked in pretty hard. Like the main ones, obviously, like treating people super well. Like these are all common sense things. The big ones that I like to pull out is employees ought to be not valued more, but you need to focus on your employees first more than your clients. That one we talk about a lot. And then the second one is just extreme ownership. Like how can we take ownership of this situation so we can control the problem? Mm-hmm. Like those two we talk about a lot. We measure goals against them every year. And those two things in particular are really important because that helps remind us that like we need to invest in ourselves. Mm-hmm. That way we can help serve the clients better. And the second one is if there's a problem and you're constantly blame shifting, you're never going to have control over it to fix it.
Right.
It's going to cause more fires.
Yeah. The reason I asked that question is because like the culture, like if it's easily digestible, if it's something that you guys talk about on a daily basis, it really helps with that. No task is beneath me. Like, it's just understood. Everyone understands it. And even like a new hire, when they come in, they're like, they just pick it up because everyone's using that terminology. Yeah. I've worked for a few companies that, had a bulleted list that they hung on a bulletin board someplace, and it was just lip service. Like you bring up like, care about your customers in a meeting or something like that, you'd be laughed out of the conference room. But like the companies that I like to work for are the companies that are genuine, that like this is our culture. And when you get in there and yeah, it is their culture. You feel that it's their culture and you're representing it and you can use it, use those values and no one's laughing at you and everyone's like, yeah, that is us. That's what this company's all about.
Yeah. We went to, this was encouraging. So we went to breakfast yesterday for one of our clients, and it was a corporate culture awards. So there's like probably 15 different categories of awards that all these companies are judged on. And the awards come from the employees. The employees write the reviews. All that data is put together. And then whoever the panel is decides what company should get what award. When we left, it was me and Tori that went. And Tori's been here just about a year. And when we left, she was like, I feel like we would honestly get like 9 of those 15 awards based on like how good our culture is, and the other ones we wouldn't want.
Right.
And I was like, that was really encouraging.
Like you don't want best dressed, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that was because I went literally dressed like this, and I was the only person there with a hat. I was the only person not in formal wear. And I was also the person that talked to the most businesses, and I wasn't even there for networking.
Right.
But there's something about that, to me at least, that casual nature that helps conversations.
Yeah, like I mentioned that first job that I had out of college where I had to wear a tie. Like every employee had to wear a tie, even the dude that's running the Ethernet cables, like from cube to cube. So he's like crawling around on the floor, getting his tie caught on everything and whatnot. And it's like, can we give this guy an exception? Like he'd be way happier. He'd probably work faster and like it way more if you just treated him like
dark jeans and a polo from a man. Something,
right. Yeah, exactly. So
it brings up an interesting point. So Grant, who's engineering our podcast, you are a newest hire, correct?
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah. Unless you guys have been to work while
we're that big now.
Yeah. Well, I keep getting him and Julia mixed, even though I'm pretty sure Julia was here way before him. So Grant, I guess candidly, I know this is kind of putting you on the spot, but like how have we lived up to that? And you and I have talked, and you've given me some really good feedback and stuff. But how have we adopted that, and how have you seen our cultures kind of play out in the 90 days you've been here?
I really enjoy it. Whoops, never mind.
That's okay.
I'm gonna get myself in picture, but I didn't have it set up. Okay, never mind.
That's all right. We'll fix it. We'll put a Polaroid of you up.
Put my graduation photo up there.
Yeah. Make that happen.
No, it's on. You'll never find it. Okay. Anyway, no. I really appreciate, you said the casual dress. And to me, part of that is a lack of pretentiousness. It's just like, hey, here's what we do. And you put the employees first. It's like, I always feel like I'm listened to, like you seek out feedback from me. You're not afraid of it, and you don't discredit it when I do give it. So I don't know. It's really a complete 180 from what I've experienced, to the point where I have to come out of my shell a little bit. Where I'm like, oh, this guy actually wants me to be honest with him. I have to train myself to do that instead of just, gently lying. So no, I love it, man.
I appreciate that. And that's what we want. Like, you want people that, like, I have people routinely say that there's a better way to do this. Like Chris does that. He's like, are you sure you want to do that?
Right.
And I'm like,
that's just the pessimistic in me. It's just like, where can this go wrong?
Yeah. And that's helpful, because I'm very much like, yeah, we can do this.
Right.
And then you're a nice counterbalance of like, are you sure though?
Yeah.
It's easy to bite off more than you can chew. So you need someone that is not going to just be the yes man.
Yeah.
350-page website in 30 days. You got it.
Yeah. And that was another thing too, because like through that learning process, it's like, every time we do a new project, we have Speakeasy Mobile spinning up. So I'm talking to Grant. I'm like, all right, how long in minutes? And people are probably tired of me asking this, because I always have to qualify it, because I'll ask people, how long in minutes does this take you to do? And I'm not asking so I can understand how fast or slow you are. I'm asking so I know what our average is, so I can charge appropriately. Right. So if it takes us 60 days to build a website, I don't want to tell somebody 30. And if it's more work than I can understand in scope, we need to charge for that.
Or if you don't have employees that are used to that openness, they're going to undersell. Oh yeah, I can get that done in 5 hours, but it really takes them 15. And then before too long, you're like way overworked and nothing's getting done.
Exactly.
Yeah. That was a big thing for me when I first started. You were asking those questions, and I was just like, I could get it done in a couple days. Like, yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
And then after I was like, uh-oh.
And then the one thing we never factor in is client communication.
Right.
How long is it going to take us to get that profile picture, my friend?
Right. I'll find it myself.
Yeah.
I'll find your graduation picture.
That was so yeah, we will find it, Grant. So that was funny too. We didn't launch a website, but we sent a preview to a website to a client, and I put in his about page, I put like a handsome cowboy in the, do you remember this?
Yeah.
And it was like, I just made like up a bio about this cowboy, and I left it in the website not thinking we need to get the picture. So we sent it to him. And like the feedback we got was, what the hell is this? Like, who's that guy?
I don't know who's in that about page. I feel like he likes long walks on the beach.
Yeah.
Like a bunch of other stuff. But.
Yeah. Long walks on the ranch.
Yeah.
But then that turned into a whole thing of like, well, they'll probably sell more windows, brother. Just leave that in there.
You go.
Yeah. But everything about corporate culture is misunderstood, because I don't think it's, when you scale, people don't think that culture is scalable. And you look at a company, and I'm just curious, like Amazon, I'm not asking you like, give me the good or bad, but just, it seems like they understand, at least on the professional services side, how to scale culture.
Yeah. I mean, this is public knowledge, so there's no secrets here, is that they have a set of leadership principles. When you go in and you are interviewing at Amazon, they're grilling you on those leadership principles. Like, you don't need to memorize them before you go in or anything like that, but they're asking you behavioral questions. Like, you have an unhappy customer, and, if you say that you're going to hang up the phone on them, obviously that's not demonstrating customer obsession. So like, that's why I asked you that question about your values, like how ingrained are they to your culture? Because like at the end of the day, like those ideals can scale. Like if everyone has a shared understanding of what those are and they're permeating the culture, then yeah, it's totally scalable. It doesn't matter how many people you bring on if you're evaluated on during your annual reviews on those values. If they come up in like daily conversation, like everybody's on the same page.
Yeah. One of the most rewarding phone calls I've gotten was we had a client that we made a fairly big error on, and it was a podcast launch, it was an implementation, and just everything kept going wrong. And I wasn't available to talk to the client, so the person that was running creative on that did, and she said, "Look, this is my fault." She's like, "I 100% botched this. It's on me." Like, just told the client, took all the ownership of it, and said, "But I got it fixed. It's up and running now. We're in good shape. No, nothing was lost." The client called me and she's like, "Hey, we had a pretty significant problem." But she's like, "I like your company 10 times more now because she's like, whatever you're telling your people, keep doing that, because they took full responsibility of what happened. They didn't put anything off on me, even though I had some fault in it." It was just crazy. What do you got?
They read the rule book. Whatever rule book you're making your employees read.
Yeah. She's like, "Whatever you're doing, keep doing it." Because like the client was even like, some of that was my fault, but she never once was she like, "Hey, you didn't get this to us in time," or like, it was none of that, which I was like, all right, so we got something here.
Yeah, and the company that I work at now, similar thing. They have a different set of principles. I don't even know if they call them leadership principles or just values or whatever, but like it's part of the culture. And so like everybody is clear, like, one of their things is cultivate openness is one of their leadership principles. And so like from the CEO down, like everybody, like no one's hiding anything. Everyone is entitled or empowered to like go and talk to the CEO, talk to the CTO, whatever. If you have a problem, they have a kind of an open door policy that you can go in and you can talk to them. If you have questions about how the business is run or anything like that, they'll answer them. And they actually appreciate that, because that shows, if you're asking these questions, if you really care, you're invested. And so now they're like, yeah, I really appreciate you're thinking about this, not just because you want a paycheck, but because you actually care about the work that you're producing.
Yeah. What do you think in your experience are some environmental factors that can really help encourage positive culture?
I think one of my personal favorite things, all the jobs that I've looked at since my first job out of college is flexible working hours. Everybody has life commitments, kids, doctor's appointments, whatever. I don't want to get in trouble if I show up at 8:05 because, there was snow on the ground or something like that. So like, treat your employees like people. We kind of already touched on that. The other thing is be honest with yourself and be authentic. Like you don't say we care about customers, but behind closed doors, you're like just talking bad about customers or anything like that. And then, the hiring process, you want to bring in people that represent your company. And so you first need to distill, what is the culture that you want, and then have processes to evaluate people on that culture, and don't hire people if you're unsure about it. And the last thing is, everyone's going to make a mistake. Have ways to hold people accountable without like, you're fired or anything like that. Because if there isn't that accountability, then over time, what's going to happen is that everyone is, going to turn into dead weights. Like, why do I even care? Everything is broken. Nothing matters. The work is not important. So.
Yeah, that whole response is our live preview clip.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about that. Like you rattled that off like you were reading like a leadership book. No, that's tremendous though. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show, is because like obviously, I would say you and I are close, but we don't hang out all the time, right? You were in Seattle for almost 10 years.
Right.
But every time I see you, it's something about business or culture or your company and how to make it better and how to improve it. Like I've never once heard you like openly complain about nonsense or just like, it's just, you have this, I don't even know what to call it, but it's something that's embedded in your DNA that has you always looking to like solve an issue rather than just sit there and complain about it.
That's kind of like what a software engineer is, right? Like there's a problem, you have to come up with a solution, you have to develop code and launch it, right? But like that's solving a problem, and then you take that to like, you know, your team. How can you make your team more efficient so you can solve more problems? And that's just, you know, I don't know where I got that from, but that's definitely something that I'm always interested in. The flip side of that is sometimes I get frustrated when problems persist, and you know, I think that kind of runs in the family a little bit. But yeah.
It certainly does.
Yeah.
You see that one extra space in your code?
Yeah.
And you're just like, no.
Yeah. I mean,
searching this thing for 3 hours.
like honestly, you can get stressed out if you're always looking for something better to do, and you're like, there's got to be a solution. There's got to be a solution. And you know, I take so much pride in my work that sometimes it does backfire, but more often than not, like I get positive results. I you know, spread that energy around the team. So you know, I've never been fired, so I'm doing something right.
Yeah, I'm not in that camp. But I don't think I'll ever be fired again, hopefully.
Yeah.
Unless I get Steve Jobs down the road. So Chris, final thoughts, corporate culture. I guess what would you encourage to people that are hitting the job market or some things? Because you really do have an interesting perspective of you went from a smaller company. I mean, we're not going to use names,
right.
But, you know, you went from a smaller company where culture was, we'll say so.
Right.
And then you went to, you know, you're working with me over at Jackson,
yep. which is huge. Yeah, giant. How many? 2,000 to 5,000 employees in that one facility.
Yep.
So yeah, and then it's all stuffy, and then now this, which is another small company, everybody's much more laid back and a real person. That's my biggest piece. It would just be like, just be yourself, be open and honest to your employees, to your people, what you want to do, what you're capable of doing. Don't say like, oh yeah, I can do software engineering. You know, that's not, it's not going to work.
I've interviewed a few people like that. Yeah. Hey, can you write some code on the whiteboard? And it always fails.
Oh.
So yeah.
Oh God. He's like HTTPS.
www.indeed.com.
Yeah. That's where you need to go next,
right?
son.
Oh yeah. But yeah, just being yourself, and then just don't oversell. Like you can't really, I think in tech, you can't really fake it until you make it. Right.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, YouTube can only teach you so much so fast.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, just be yourself and do your thing.
Yeah. That's a good piece of advice. And another thing too, is like when you have that culture, one of the neatest things I've seen is like, I've seen like people make mistakes. I've been in meeting rooms like here where people have made mistakes or said things they shouldn't have. Mm-hmm. And my first response was, I'm not going to mention it. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, like the next day they're like, hey man, like I'm really like, and it's like, no, it's fine. Like I know you as a person, like everyone makes mistakes.
Give them time to correct their errors.
Yeah.
Like, because probably they're going to beat themselves up about it more than like you come in and talk to them about it.
Oh, for sure.
And like it, you know, it also gives you a good data point. Like, you know, did they notice that they made a mistake? And if they don't, and they continue to make mistake after mistake and they don't do anything about it, then that, you know, that's a pretty good data point from a like manager perspective.
Absolutely. So boys, anything else before we wrap up this nice cultural corporate roundtable?
Oh, wins part 2. It was fun.
Yeah, it was super fun. Yeah, we'll definitely have you back.
All right.
That was super fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right, Chris, anything else?
Nope.
No Chris's Corner this week?
No.
To get that revived for next week?
Yeah,
well,
I will.
You haven't been on the show, so it's missed. I get letters every day from people that are like, when's this segment coming back?
Well, I'm looking at electric cars now. Like, I guess I can go off into that. Like, I saw a Kia EV6 going down the road today, and I almost hit it because I wanted it so bad. It looks kind of cool. I was like, man, I didn't even know, but I want that crossover size full electric vehicle. Like, not an electric Hummer, like too big, but not like, you know, my tiny little Volt.
Yeah.
So like,
you just charge with a cigarette lighter,
right?
Just like a self-charge.
Yeah, right. So, you know, that's my next venture, is trying to figure out what electric car is best for me.
Yeah. Are you into electric cars?
No. I don't.
All right.
I work from home, so like I'm lucky to get out of the house. So like I'm not into cars, electric or otherwise.
His gas is going
Yeah.
bad.
No,
No joke. Moving like when I finally when we decided to move back from Seattle to Michigan, like we had to take my car to a mechanic to fix it because it just sat for so long. So
Nice.
yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, cool. So electric cars, that's what we'll look forward to. We'll get an update on what you're going to buy. I like the Ford F1, the electric Ford F-150s.
me too.
You can like run a house for 3 days on it.
Right. Yep.
So I'm excited. All right. Dave, thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks
Always
for
a
having
pleasure
me.
seeing you.
Yep. See you.
All right, gang. That's going to wrap up this week's edition of Waynecast. Appreciate y'all listening. We'll catch you next week. Take care.